Hey, what's up everyone, and welcome to today's video. This episode is meant as a conclusion to the introduction of the team called the New Mutants. Rain has been following the trail of Xavier sent for miles. It took her hours to get to the facility where the professor is being held. She checks out the surroundings and plans to enter, using her mutant abilities. She switches between her human and wolf form to jump the fence and scare the guard dogs. She's maximizing the abilities of both forms, and even her in-between form of half girl, half wolf. She makes it to the roof of the building. As she looks down through one of the windows, she wonders what her reverend would say about her. She's being insecure about her rights to call herself a human being, thanks to her religious indoctrination. She eavesdrops on Donald Pierce and his goons. Donald Pierce tells Xavier that he's been hooked up to a device, designed by Pierce himself. He calls it a mind tap. It inhibits Xavier to use his psi powers, and, more importantly to Pierce, it absorbs all the information Charles has stored in his brain. He tells Xavier he can try and resist all he likes with his psychic defenses, but in the end, the result will be the same. He actually taunts Xavier to fight as hard as he can, because that will cause damage to Xavier and will eventually melt his brain, permanently. He also tells Tessa that after he's done with Xavier, it will be her turn. Rain thinks about what she can do to help the professor. Barging in will probably not help either one of them, since she's outnumbered. At that moment, she receives a psychic communication. It is Danielle. Mora told her to try and make contact with Rain. Danielle's ability to bond with animals in a way beyond the ability of normal human beings allows her to communicate with Rain in her transitional form. While this is going on, Cannonball tries to capture Rain. Having seen the intruder from a distance does not prepare Sam for what he sees up close. He loses his concentration at the sight of Rain's transitional form and crash lands nearby. Sam can't believe his eyes as he now sees Rain in her full wolf form. He wonders if his protective shield, which automatically activates when he's using his flying powers, will protect him from Rain's teeth as well. They won't find out because Danielle uses her powers on Sam and he thinks he's being buried again by the rubble from the cave-in. He thinks he's in the mines again. He then panics and blasts his way straight through the building. The Hellfire Club soldiers are alarmed and come rushing out, fully armed. Rain attacks and bites one of them, while Roberta smashes the wall of the building. This causes some kind of explosion which takes out most of the foot soldiers. Roberta regrets the guards having been protected by their armor. He wishes they had died in the explosion. Sean tells him they are not killers, and Dani tells Sean to speak for herself. Roberta and Danielle have both lost loved ones at the hands of the Hellfire Club soldiers. Danielle will play by the rules for now, until she gets her hands on Pierce. She tells Rain to lead them to Xavier. Cannonball flies towards them and tells them that if they want Pierce, they will have to go through him first. Roberta jumps out of the way and Sam crash lands once again. Sean figures Sam must be a mutant as well, having powers like that, which makes no sense to her because she's aware of Pierce despising mutants. She notices a clear difference between the clumsiness of Sam and the soldiers, who are obviously well-trained killers. As she tries to take over his body, she's unable to. Too scared and too excited. No focus, not enough concentration. Instead she picks up a machine gun one of the soldiers dropped on the floor and starts shooting. All this while thanking her father for teaching her how to use a weapon. She tells Dani, Roberta and Rain to go inside and find Xavier, and tells Roberta to smash any and all machines he can find. As Roberta does, he thinks back to how, when he was being bullied and a smaller kid, he would get angry and wish for the power to tear things apart. Ironically, he now has this kind of power, but he would give it all up if that would bring him back his now dead girlfriend Juliana. Pierce finds out that these kids Xavier gathered are more formidable than he expected, and he is about to snap Xavier's neck. Rain crashes through a nearby window and attacks Pierce, bites his arm, and I hope she won't start feeling sick from the taste of blood in her mouth. But she won't have to be afraid of that, because instead of flesh and blood, she finds cables, gears and electronics beneath his clothes. Pierce is a cyborg as well. Pierce kicks her off him and Rain changes forms mid-air, trying to maneuver herself so that she won't smash into things too hard. She's partially successful, but still hurt from the impact. Danielle then attacks Pierce, but quickly finds out that apart from his bionic limbs, He also has defenses implanted against all forms of psionic assaults, which includes her mutant gift. Her power gets turned back on herself and she loses her grip and falls down on the floor. Xavier looks at Rain, who's trying to get up, but sees blood on her face. He figures she must have gotten a punctured lung from the impact. He's surprised that she's even still conscious and trying to get up. Regardless of that, he asks her to do something for him, namely move herself to a certain console behind him. At that moment, Roberto smashes into the room and distracts Pierce. He tells the murderer to face his wrath. This allows Rain to do what Xavier asked of her. Cannonball followed Roberto inside and pushed him into a machine with force. Sam himself smashes into the machines as well. He clearly overcalculated Roberto's resistance. Roberto tells Sam it serves him right, attacking him cowardly from behind. Rain struggles to do what Xavier asked her to do and tells him she doesn't have the strength. He then tells her to throw a switch, knowing damn well he's pushing her and could possibly be killing her in the process. Sean enters the room and sees she's the only one fit to fight. She tries to take over Pierce, but runs into the same mechanical psychic disruptors as Danielle did. He simply disposes of Sean and tells Sam to get rid of them after he's done with Roberto. Sam asks Pierce what to do with them, remove them from the property, hand them over to the sheriff. Pierce answers by telling Sam that he wants them all killed. Sam refuses and Pierce draws a gun on him. Sam tries to start up his mutant ability, but it fails on him. He's too tired from having been using it too much and fighting with Roberto. Pierce then points a gun at Sam and is about to shoot him in the face, but finds that he can't pull the trigger. He figures out it's due to Xavier. Rain was successful in liberating Xavier and he mentally attacks Pierce. On the outside, their battle is visible on their faces. After several seconds, Xavier wins the mental battle. Sam asks what has happened and Xavier tells him that he's a telepath. And he uses powers in a way that he rarely does, by taking total control of Pierce's consciousness. He then makes Pierce release Tessa from her trap. Danielle takes a look at Rain and says she's doing bad and needs to be taken to a hospital. Professor Xavier monitors Rain's condition and hails Mora mentally to come pick them up, so Rain can get rushed into a hospital. Xavier isn't sure what to do with Pierce though. They don't want to wait on the authorities to arrive because Rain's health is of more concern. Yet taking Pierce with him is a risk Xavier is not willing to take. If he happens to break free from Sean's possession, he will slay them all instantly. Tessa provides a solution. She will have the Hellfire Club take care of him, knowing he's as much of a threat to the members of the Inner Circle as to any other mutant. Sam asks what he should do. Roberto tells him to follow his boss and get lost. Sam is left behind by himself as they make their way outside and leave. About 2 weeks later, Xavier is sitting in his study, looking at pictures of 2 teams of X-Men. Reminiscing right before he mentally calls his new students. We see the kids in their rooms, getting dressed in their new uniforms, thinking about what had happened to them and what their place is in all of this, where to go from here. Rain seems to have healed quite fast considering her injuries. Xavier figures it's because of her shape-changing abilities. Xavier and Danielle have a discussion about why she's wearing a different belt and not the one that's supposed to go with the uniform. Xavier then tells Rain to go and open the door even before the doorbell rings. It's Sam. Xavier invited him to come over and was expecting him. Rain's surprised by their former adversary being at the door. Xavier tells her telepathically that anyone can make a mistake. The professor then tells the kids how he invited Sam over and that Donald Pierce tricked Sam in believing they were his enemy. Roberto is skeptical and Sam tries to swallow his pride and tells him he would like to make amends. Rain tells Roberto that he deserves a second chance, and Roberto, being the flirty guy he is, says he cannot resist a beautiful girl like her. Danielle makes fun of Roberto welcoming Sam and asks him who he thinks runs this place. Roberto responds by saying Xavier does, for now. All the kids laugh and even Xavier has a smile on his face. After weeks of grieving and feeling alone and depressed, he starts to cheer up a little bit, thanks to these teenagers. He's not relieved of the pain of loss and feelings of guilt, and he knows those feelings will probably remain a part of him for the rest of his life. But it no longer consumes him. These kids reignite a flame inside of him, and he realizes the dream is still good. Thanks for watching this video and I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to help me out with growing this channel, you can hit the like button or subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, so YouTube knows you're enjoying the content. See you next episode.